Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Dennis Superman Hallman to defeat John Doomsday Howard. And I am here to talk about Joe Solecki versus Grant Dawson. This is a fight between two similar types of fighters. Both guys are reliant on their grappling. I don't want to say they're pure grapplers because I don't want either guy to try to knock me unconscious. But at the UFC level, they are dependent on their grappling. Joe Solecki has a record of 13-4. He's got 0 TKO wins, even on the ground, but he's got 9 submissions and 4 decisions. And that's precisely the kind of fighter he is. His record is not lying to you. And his 4 losses, he's got 2 by knockout, 2 by decision. The knockouts come to Drakkar Klose in his last fight, who knocked him out with a slam. Joe Solecki came out of the gate hot like he always does, got on top of Drakkar Klose and looked like he was going to control him. Drakkar turned into him and slammed him, and he went out. And that was right after Cody Brundage, I think, got a slam knockout. The next fight. But that's his one knockout, and the other one comes to Nicholas Mota, current UFC fighter, who actually just got a knockout win himself recently over Tom Nolan. And Nicholas Mota knocked him out in round 3. I haven't seen the whole fight. I feel like I did once, but lately I've only been able to see the knockout, and Nicholas Mota knocked him out. It wasn't, any bullshit stoppage. He got him out of there in round 3. His other 2 losses are to Jared Gordon and this guy Cesar Balmaceda. And both fights were fights in which Joe Solecki started out strong with his grappling and then faded. And he may not have completely fallen off a cliff against Jared Gordon, but his wrestling wasn't there for him in the second half of that fight. Jared actually reversed him at the end of round 1 and then took him down in round 2. And round 3, I don't think there were any takedowns, but Jared won the fight with his cardio, and Joe wasn't able to fight his fight down the stretch. And the same thing happened with that guy Caesar. Joe was dominant all over him, expended too much energy, and wasn't able to make anything work for him down the stretch where he was visibly tired. So overall, there's a little doubt in, I guess, his chin, but overall, like fragility because he was knocked out by a slam and knocked out in round 3 by Mota. But in general, my biggest concern with him is his cardio. I feel like it's failed him in just about every loss. But aside from the Drakkar Klose fight, obviously. But I do think it's not like his cardio has failed him to the point where he's gasping for air and whatever. It's just that at the very least, he's not a force like he is in round 1 with his wrestling. And that opens up his whole game. Without that, he's a limited striker. And he's a guy who he can scratch and claw. He's won some tight decisions, good decisions over Jim Miller, who gave him a good first round, and Alex Da Silva, who, if you remember him, he was a good fighter, even though there was some horse shit in that fight. But it's not like he's going to completely fall off a cliff. But I do think if these guys fight into the third round, Grant Dawson will be winning round 3. Grant Dawson is just like Joe Solecki offensively. Wants to rip you to the mat, turn a corner, and lock his legs around you. These guys are both really good at taking the back. The thing is, I think Grant Dawson is a little better, a little more of a physical force. And I think as good as Joe Solecki is at finishing, I think Grant Dawson's the better finisher, especially at the UFC level, which is where this fight is taking place. I think Grant Dawson is serviceable on the feet. He's got some good strikes, but he's vulnerable, as he's shown lately, and I think his striking is always just really a means to an end. Grant's got 2 losses. Both of them are knockouts in 30 seconds. This guy, Hugh Pulley, got him with Travis Brown elbows and knocked him out in 30 seconds. I mean, he was still going for a takedown or whatever, but he was out of it. And Bobby Green knocked him out with a straight left hand, I believe, or a jab even. I believe it was a jab. And Grant Dawson couldn't recover. He was just he was taken out with that punch. He kind of shelled up. He wasn't unconscious, but he was hurt and he wasn't recovering. No matter what happened there, it wasn't a great look. And then it's important to mention he had a draw against Ricky Glenn formerly Rick Glenn. And that was a really close fight where he was nearly killed in round 3, and he was scratching and clawing to survive with Ricky Glenn just pouring it on him. Ricky wasn't able to put him away, knock him out, or submit him, and Grant had done enough in the first 2 rounds where the 10-8 round only cost him. It got him a draw. It didn't cost him the win. I guess it did, but it didn't give him a loss. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you don't. Leave me the fuck alone. But I am picking Grant Dawson to win here. He's a guy who I think has better overall grappling. I do think he's probably going to lose round 1 because Joe Solecki is excellent in round 1. He typically wins round 1 no matter who he's fighting. But I do think he will fall off a little bit. And Grant Dawson, not that he's going to accelerate and get better, but his grappling will still be there for him down the stretch. So the prediction is Grant Dawson wins by round 3 stoppage. I've got it being a TKO. I don't know. Grant Dawson is just such a strong finisher, and he's got plenty of them in round 3. Jared Gordon, who beat Joe Solecki by decision, while he was able to get Jared Gordon out of there deep into the fight. Leonardo Santos, he knocked him unconscious with 1 second left in round 3. And of course, Marco Madsen, who he beat by rear naked choke as well as Jared Gordon. That was another round 3 finish. Grant Dawson is just so heavy on top, and he's got such a steady jiu-jitsu attack that it's tough to keep up with. And we saw that early on in the UFC career of his, where he beat Mike Trezano and Darrick Minner in round 2. Even though you get Darrick Minner out of round 1, you're probably going to finish him in round 2, no matter who you are. But Grant Dawson is the pick. I don't think Joe Solecki has the striking to go through Grant Dawson. I don't think he's going to get his first knockout. And if he does, I don't think it would be in 30 seconds like the other 2 guys to beat Grant Dawson. I think this does turn into a grappling match. I think Joe is winning, if not competitive, early on. But in the end, I think Grant Dawson is going to be able to out-grapple him. Strike his way into a takedown, start to be the bully in the wrestling department. And once he gets on top of Joe is an excellent jiu-jitsu guy, and he's never been submitted. And I think, and I've seen him grapple with Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez and whatever. I know he can handle himself. It's not like he's a fish out of water on his back. But I think Grant Dawson is so good offensively that it could prove to be a very bad matchup once he's on top of Joe Solecki. And I think he could finish him on the ground like no one else has, just because Grant is so dominant on top. So the pick is Grant Dawson by round 3 stoppage. I guess I'll go with a TKO. And the bet so far does not exist. Joe Solecki's at plus 320. I'm tempted to play that just because I'm a degenerate, but I haven't. And the under 2.5 rounds is set at plus 150, which that's tempting considering the way they've lost. And, each guy being knocked out in round 1 in his last fight and whatever. But I haven't played that. I just think it's stylistically a matchup that will produce a longer grappling fight. And even though I am still picking a finish in round 3, and that could easily happen in under 2.5 rounds, I just haven't mustered up the courage to play the under at plus 150. So I'll wait for the props, maybe throw some sprinkles on round 3 or whatever, but I don't think I'll be playing Grant heavily in any way. I think I'll just really be sitting back and watching this one. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.